other things he used to do, he's always been tight.
You tell me.
No, Joe.
Would you call him tight, Judy?
We would,
Yes.
a guy named Ben Armstrong would hire
You?
him and me.
Are you tight?
Tight? No.
Ben would hire Jim and I to spray his tobacco. I was we call it spray it, but put poison on it to kill budworms. Well, it was about this tall. It had the back stick, and you'd attach a tin can, put nail holes in the bottom, put arsenic or lead in it, another stick, and you'd go bang, top of each plant.
Yes.
They had like acre and a half of tobacco, and we paid that. And then another
Collier.
guy hired us to set tobacco to pig. We'd help him every year.
Okay.
Two guys.
Okay.
So it was three.
Love
We
you.
had three
Bye-bye.
jobs. About that time, then the county fair would come in. Well, I may have $15. You know, we may have made $15, something like that. First day, most 2 days, I done spent all mine riding the Ferris wheel and tilt-a-whirl and stuff like that. Jim stuck with mom and dad. Went and listened to all the political speeches, and his was still sitting on top of, say, chest of drawers, brand new. He'd fix mine, play with it, but he wouldn't let me play with it. Well, let me play with it. No, you gave it to me. And, you know, he would say, you know,
You gave it to me.
if you
Yeah,
give it to me,
Gave
if
it
it
to me
I'll
to
fix
fix
it. You know, and then he'd keep it, you know.
And he'd sell it back to you.
He probably would have, yeah. If I had any money left, he might have. But it's like I was telling Judy, and I don't know how well we were, but he had already become a Christian and had communion. And old Pleasant Hill has got a rail around in front of the pulpit like this, and the choir's behind it. And we go down, you know. And I went down, I'll eat the bread and get the grape juice, you know. Well, Jim was over me. I mean, he was dead serious. So he's been a Christian a long time, you know. I never heard him cuss. He never smoked a cigarette. I saw him try to smoke a cigar once. And, I mean, he just was always, anything that was going to be done had to be done right. You know, no cheating and stuff like that. So, but I could always ask him a question. No, it's like on stock. Back 15, 20 years ago, I'd call him, or we'd be talking. I said, what about so-and-so? And in a day or two, he'd send me information. It was good or better if you'd paid $50, $75 for it. You know. And, but he always saved. I don't know if he got from Uncle Hot or not. Uncle Hot always said, if make $1, save a dime.
Yeah.
Uncle Hot and Mary, all their life, make $1, save a dime. And, but then his tightness probably caused the rheumatic fever that he had. He had a sore throat, and mom and dad took him to old Dr. Sydney, anyways, gave him a shot or medicine, whatever. And everybody thought he had gotten well, but they'd come back on him. In our living room, we had a warm water stove here and a couch and whatnot, radio. At that time, they didn't have TV. But it's a chair in his corner, and notice he's sitting in that chair all the time. And he was too tight. He didn't want to cost mom and dad money that was spent to go to the doctor and get medicine. And that's when later on I found out he had rheumatic fever. If he had spoken up, seriously, if he had spoken up about the doctor, they could knock the sore throat out and maybe have avoided that. But I mean, he didn't want them to spend the money for the doctor and medicine, you know. But, and then I always like to tell the story how he got on work. I got him on, and then he got me on. Listen, like January 56. And we had a little ice storm. Well, they didn't have school. About 9 o'clock, Dad comes along, you know. Okay, boys, I've got to go to Paducah and sign up for my rocking chair. You want to go? We said, yeah. So we got in the car, went to Paducah, and had no problem whatsoever, but they didn't have school. So anyway, Dad's back, whatever they do, asking questions, whatnot. And me and Jim was sitting there, you know, and had this little signboard sitting like that. It says General Allen and Film Corporation, Calvert City, Kentucky is hiring so many men 18 to 25 years old. I'm reading that and I go, hey Jim, yeah, they all check in on that. He said, think I will. So he got up and went over to the window thing and asked about it. They took him back in the back. Dad come out and said, where's Jimmy? I said, well, I read this sign and I had him read it and he's gone and asked him. They got him back in the back. He went to work 2 weeks later as a lab tech. Then the following year, I graduated in May of '57. I was still 17 years old. And now you've got to understand shift work. You're on 7, off a couple, you're on 7, off a couple or one, and then you have a long weekend. Okay, you work one set of days, one set of afternoons, one set of midnights.
Well, it's gotta be hard.
The day shift started on Friday. This was in June after I graduated. He went on days on Friday, and the boss come out and says, we're going to hire 8 lab techs. Does anybody know someone who would like to have a job? And Jim says, I've got a brother. Get him up here. So we didn't have a phone. So my grandmother did, so that's how they got hold of us. Well, they got hold of us, and I got ready and went up the following
You all
Monday,
right,
I guess it was.
Jill?
When I get there, they tell me, well, you can't work between the hours 12 midnight and 6 o'clock in the morning in a chemical plant unless you're 18. So they hired 8 people. And I was
Before
left out.
you.
Yeah, I mean, no, I wasn't 18. So comes the latter part of August, one of these guys that they hired decides he's going back to school. Now, what are the odds that Jim starts days on Friday? Same boss walks out and says, we got to hire 1 lab tech. Does anybody know someone who'd like to have a job? I got a brother. Get him up here. I went to work September the 9th. So I got him on, then he got me on.
And then your birthday had been August the 2nd.
Yeah, August 2nd, see. So I was barely over 18.
But now, if that guy hadn't quit and gone back to school, how long would it have been before you got on?
Well, we got one if he hadn't quit.
Yeah, I mean, if he hadn't quit, how long
Well,
would it take?
you know, thinking about it, it had been a long time
Yeah.
because I got laid off the following in 58. 58, I was laid off for 2 weeks. Now, that's another thing. There was 3 of us. I think it was 3 of us had to go to the personnel office and they was laying us off. So after they tell us we're being laid off and whatnot and everything, the personnel manager says, can anybody type? And I looked at the other guys and I go, yeah, I had typing in high school. Well, stay here. So they gave me a typing test and gave me a book. It's chemical words all this long, you know, like polyvinyl peroldone or something like that. And I'm typing, on an old manual typewriter. I got something like 9 words per minute. So I said, go home, practice for a week, and come back. But when I came back, I think I got 14 words per minute. So I was the first clerk of the laboratory, General Allen Film, in 1958. I worked 2 years, or a year and a half, from 2 years, something like that, as a clerk. And they was going to hire somebody, and I told Andy Wood, I said, I'd like to have a job. He said, you want to go off of days and work shift work? I said, yeah. I said, I'm making $60 a week, and they're making 80. Why wouldn't I? You know, so I switched over to the lab, and then me and Jim worked shift work together till he got a straight day job. And I ended up taking a foreman's job, and mainly because I'd get us a day job back in the back, and it'd last a month or so, and they put us back on shift. Then about 6 months or so, they needed somebody on days for a period of time. I worked like 9 months. Well, put me back on shift work. So they offered me a foreman's job. I took it because it was straight days.
Okay.
You know, so that was in 1970. Then Jim was in research. I worked in research some. Then analytical research, we serviced and kept the gas chromatographs running and program how to program them and all that kind of stuff. And Jim worked in, if they had a problem, something out in the plant in a 30,000 gallon or a 3,000 gallon whatever kettle, we tried to duplicate it in a 500 milliliter pot, and that was the kind of work he did. Trying to, we tried in good clean glassware, and we weren't having a problem with it like this happening out in the plant. But sometimes you can solve it, you know. But I took the former job mainly because it'd be straight days. Well, Wayman Duncan is now married to Carolyn, was married to Calstein, and his first wife died. Calstein's husband died in September. In the spring, Glass died in September, and Wayman's wife died in like January. And it ended up
Wrong.
Wayman and Calstein got married. But anyways,
I remember all them.
yeah. Wayman